2011, the World Health Organization estimates that 121 million people worldwide suffer with some kind of depression. Of those 121 million, not even 25% or less than 25% have access to what they call an effective treatment. That's a lot of depressed people. So it's safe to say that all of us at one point have tried our own remedy to solve this, right? Well, practitioner and teacher of Christian Science healing, Leide Lessa, says, "Experience has shown me that prayer brings freedom, purpose, and happiness to my life." Leide lives in Quincy, Massachusetts. She loves to travel, and she's been to over 30 countries and lived in 5. She studied languages in Vienna, Austria, Sao Paulo, Brazil. If I may say so myself, she's very educated. How many different languages do you speak?
5.
5 different languages. She started and owned a language institute for 10 years. She sold it in 1998 and became a Christian Science practitioner. In 2009, she became a Christian Science teacher. She's worked for 14 years at the Publishing Society and the last 6 as managing editor of the Herald of Christian Science, which regularly publishes and is published in 14 different languages. Today, I'd like to introduce Leide Lessa, who will be giving a lecture titled "A Life of Freedom, Purpose, and Happiness."
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Catherine. And thank you all for being here. So it's such a pleasure for me to be back in Houston. I haven't been here for many, many years. I think last time I was here was 1998. So it's a long time. And I love Houston. It's a beautiful city. And this university, this campus here is really wonderful. So, and I'm grateful to be talking to you. And please feel free to ask me questions anytime. Okay, if you don't understand anything I'm saying, just because, you know, English is not my mother tongue, if I say something that you don't quite get it, please ask, and I would be glad to try to explain again or to repeat it, okay? So, first of all, as Catherine was saying, I was a managing editor of a magazine called the Herald of Christian Science. And a few years ago, because I am a native of Brazil, I went to Brazil, and I was there, you know, actually I produced a radio program. I used to produce not only magazines, but also a radio program that was weekly broadcast in São Paulo, in my hometown. So I was there one day at the Christian Science Church, and I was just waiting for a friend to come. And then somebody came and said, "Oh, are you Leide? Are you Leide? Are you Leide Lessa?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Oh, I listen to you every single week. And I just love to meet you." And she started explaining to me a little bit of her life. It was so interesting because she told me that one time in her life, everything went wrong with her. She had so many problems. And then she was just one day, you know, trying to find something on the radio. And she found that program that I used to produce. And she said it, that the way that she heard it, me saying that each one of us is really a child of God, and that we are the image and likeness of God. And God really loves each one of us. It made such a difference in her life that she decided to know a little bit more Christian Science. And she said, "Christian and Science? What is that?" And she went online and she looked it up a little bit, and she found some articles. And then she was so interested that she started studying it. So I can tell you that this is maybe a few years later, maybe 5 or 10 years later. And she told me recently that her life has completely turned around. She felt at that time that it was like a dark cloud was on her head, on her world. But nowadays, that dark cloud went away, and she has a very nice life. She's happy. She feels herself fulfilled. She became a member of that Christian Science church where she went for the first time, and she met me there. And she's very active. And it made all her difference. So what is important is that we are here today to really talk about that. How is this possible? How can somebody who maybe is suffering of any kind of problems, might be physical, might be mental, might be emotional, and just have their lives turned around to really say that they are happy, that they can have a life of freedom, of purpose, and of happiness. And that's what happened to me. That's what happened to my friend. And that's what I think it can help to each one of you. And why does it happen? Because one thing that it's important is that we can have a sense of the Christ. And this Christ is a omnipresence of a mind, of a creative mind, that it's always with us, anywhere we are, regardless of our upbringing, regardless of our background, regardless of our religion's background or any other beliefs. There is this Christ, this presence of this infinite mind or infinite love that is always with us, always, and can help us and transform our lives. So I really hope that for this time that we are going to be together, you can feel that presence of an infinite love, that it's not human. It's really much more than that. It's really divine, that can touch our lives here and make it better, make it happier, make it freer. And things can happen, and you can feel things change in your lives sometimes unexpectedly. So just be open for it. I would like to tell you a story of a friend of mine. As Catherine was saying before, I am in the healing ministry of Christian Science, which means that if somebody has a problem, if somebody is ill or has any kind of problem, hi, come in. Welcome. Hi. Anyone can just call me up, and I will help through prayer. So this person called me a few years ago, and you know, in Massachusetts we do have a lot of snow. You don't have much snow here in Texas, right? No, but we do have a lot of snow there in Massachusetts. And this friend of mine likes to ski. So guess what? She went skiing with her whole family. She had kids and her husband, and she is a good skier. But she was coming down the hill, and somehow, and she doesn't know why, because she's a good skier, she lost balance. So thanks, what happened? What do you think it happened? Guess what? She got hurt. She fell and she got hurt. So she tried to stand up, and she was not able to. So her husband had to come and to pick her up and to take her to the car. So when she got in the car, she took her cell phone and called me up. And she explained the whole thing. And, you know, because I am so spiritual, because I really know and trust that presence of infinite love that I was talking about a few minutes ago, I mentioned to her, you know, actually, in this spiritual realm, in this spiritual reality, you can never fail. It's like God, or this infinite love, is always carrying you. And we talked a little bit more about that, for her to see and to feel loved, to feel safe, to feel that it is natural to be well. It's natural to be healthy. So that excruciating pain that she was feeling vanished. So on the way back home. But when she got home, she was still not able to walk. So she got some crutches. And we continued to pray. And after a week, she was able to walk without those crutches. But she was still not able to walk properly and freely. So when things happen to people, like when things like that happen to people, what do you think people normally do? Pardon me? Go to the doctor. That's exactly what she did. So she went to the doctor, and at the doctor, she explained about her knee and what she said and what she felt, and she got what? An X-ray. So the doctor saw the X-ray and said, okay, I'm sorry to let you know, but your knee, unless you have an operation, you are not going to be able to walk freely again. And so forget about dancing. She likes to dance too. Forget about dancing or ride a bike or swim or run or skiing unless you have an operation. And he wanted to really know when she would like to schedule an operation. She said, okay, let me think about it. So she went back to her car. What do you think she did? Exactly. She called me again. And, as a Christian Science practitioner, I can never say what people should do. It's not my business. The way I work, I really trust that this infinite mind, that it's always intelligent and creative, that creates and governs everyone and everything, that every one of us has a direct access to that infinite mind, or God. So I told her, okay, let us pray about it. Let's think really spiritually about this, and you are going to hear what you're going to do. And I support you 100% in anything that you hear that you want to do. So she prayed, and she felt that she should have a spiritual treatment. In a spiritual metaphysical treatment, we are treated without any drugs. So that's, we kept praying. And I can tell you that today, when she looks at her knees, she can't even remember which one it was. She's able to walk freely, but not only walk. She runs, she rides bike, she dances again, and she is skiing again. So that is what I'm here to talk to you about. That such healings, such transformations are possible for you today, regardless of what you may have feeling. Sometimes we don't have a physical problems, but sometimes we have things that really disturb our lives, and we can get rid of those things. We don't need to suffer. It's important that we open our thought. It's really, really important that we open our thought and our heart so that we can feel this healing and transforming power of the Christ, of this presence of that infinite mind that cares and takes good care of each one of us at any day, at any moment. So we need to open our heart, and we can open our heart right now. It is important, though, when we are expecting, when we want to be healed, or when we want to see some changes for better in our lives, it is important that we have trust, expectancy, that we really expect that change to happen. It's important that we trust that infinite mind that wants only good for each one of us. And it's important that we have a faith. And those are the key elements of healing. But faith is not a blind faith. It's a faith with understanding. It's a faith that is logical. It's a logical thinking, a logical metaphysical thinking. So, do you know the meaning of heart? Do you have any idea what is the meaning of heart in the Bible? When you think of heart today, what would you think? An organ. An organ, okay, an organ that pumps blood, right? What else? Pardon me? Feelings, yes, I think that's what we think the most, right? Love, passion, right? The heart is a symbol of this human love, of romantic love. But that was not the meaning of heart in the Bible. So in the Bible, there are over 1,000 mentions of the word heart. And at that time, that ancient civilization or civilizations, they thought that the source of knowledge was the heart. Nowadays, we think that the source of knowledge is the brain. But at that time, they thought that the source of knowledge was really the heart. So that's why that we have this expression, I know it by heart. But nowadays, it doesn't mean anything for us, right? But I know it by heart. It's because in the Bible, that expression comes from really from those ancient languages and way of thinking, that the source of our knowledge is the heart. But what kind of knowledge? For example, if I ask you, what is your name? William. You told me before, William. But William, when I asked you about your name, did you have to think a lot? Good. So if I ask you about your address, do you have to think a lot about your address? What is your address? Aha! Okay, it's being recorded. You don't have to say, but do you remember it? You know it, right? Yes. Right. But you see, this kind of knowledge, we don't even think about it. It comes to us naturally. That is the knowledge that the Bible talks about, and that is the knowledge that I'm talking about. That we just know it. Some people might say it's intuitive, that we just know by intuition. And that intuition is really spiritual, is divine. It's much more than we can understand just humanly, because it's divine. I have another question for you. What is the meaning of the word religion? Who knows about that? Okay, a system that we grow by it, that we trust, right? But I mean, what is the meaning of the word religion? Do you know, do we have any linguists here? Because that is the understanding of religion. That's a system of beliefs. But it is interesting that the word religion it comes actually from Latin, and it has re is a prefix that means again. Okay? Reactivate, it means activate again. So this re, it's a prefix, so it's again. And then legion comes from Latin, from the word ligare. So religion, what does it mean then? Ligare, do you understand what ligare means? I'm sorry. To connect, to link. So that is the meaning of ligare in Latin. For example, if I have my cell phone here, and I think everyone here has a cell phone, right? Nowadays, everybody has a cell phone. So, almost everybody. But if we have a cell phone, and the cell phone doesn't have any battery, does it help? So what do we need? We need a charger, right. Okay, so we have a charger right here. So if we have a cell phone and a charger, is it enough? No. I like to do obvious things, as you guys have seen. But you will get my point. So what do we need to do? We need to plug it in. So when we plug it in, do we need to know all the laws of physics to understand really where the power is coming from to that plug, to that outlet, so that it will charge the cell phone? We don't, right? We just do it, right? And we trust, and it really charges our cell phone. So now, imagine that we are like that. We are like a cell phone, and we need a cable. We need a cable to connect us to this source, which I call the source of intelligence, the source of creativity, the source of health. But we need that connection. And I like to say that this is the true religion then, because it reconnects us to our source, to our spiritual source, to our spiritual nature, to whom we really are. So, for me, this true religion is Christian Science. But why? If we think of science, what is a science? Law. A study of?
It's just a study of a specific.
But is it just a study? So if I study something, would that be a science? No. Oh, okay. You have to prove it. So you have a theory, but if you don't prove your theory, it is not a science. So we know that 2 by 2 is 4 because the science of mathematics have demonstrated that 2 plus 2 is 4. So the science is anything that is provable. So now how can we put science with Christianity? Because it's Christian Science. How is that possible? What do you understand of it? William, tell me. What do you think?
Proven Christianity.
Proving Christianity. Very good. What about you, Jonathan? What do you think?
I guess witnessing, having witness.
Oh, very good. Witnessing. Have a witness. So,
Justifying that there is a greater power.
very good. To justify that there is a greater power. A power really greater than us. A power greater, or the power, that it's really not human. So, Christianity was founded by whom? By Jesus. So, Christian Science is a science that proves that whatever Christ Jesus did was something that we can do today. And that is why I'm here to you. As I related 2 healings or 2 experiences, and now I will tell you another one, my own healing, so that you can see that what Jesus did was not only for him or for that period of time, but it is something that you can apply today, whatever your problem is, whatever difficulty you might have here in college to go through your studies, to go through your exams, because sometimes it gets really tough to go through college and all that. And the science of the Christ really shows that we can heal or experience healing like in Jesus' time. And that it's something that I would like you to really see that this is possible. But we can think, okay, we're here to talk about a life with freedom, purpose, and happiness. So where does happiness come from? So sometimes, have you ever heard, okay, if I had a new boyfriend, I would maybe be happier. If I got married to a millionaire, I could buy a lot of things, I would be happy. Or, oh, if I had if I won the lottery, have you ever heard of this? Oh, if I could win $1 million, I would be so happy. Sometimes we think a lot of comments like that, right? People say all the time, or if. And those who will only think about if, they really forget what they have. They're just thinking in a possibility or sometimes something that it's impossible. And then they forget to be grateful for the good that they already have. So gratitude is very important in our lives for us to feel or to find real happiness, to be grateful for everything good that has happened to our lives. And I love to say, I love a statement that it's in this book. I have one with a red cover, but the blue cover is over there, and you are very welcome to take one if you'd like. But this book was written by Mary Baker Eddy, the discoverer and founder of Christian Science. And she states on page 58 something that really called my attention, and especially when she talks about the unselfish ambition. Because unselfish ambition sounds like contradictory, right? When you think of the word ambition, what do you think? Is it normally a positive word or a negative word? What do you think? Pardon me? Ambition is positive? He's so ambitious. He would do everything he can to get to that job. Is that sometimes positive? Huh? Not all the time, right? Because sometimes ambition can really be bad. Because sometimes people get so competitive, right? That they will do whatever they can to reach their goals. But here, Mary Baker Eddy talks about ambition in a different way because she talks about unselfish ambition. So let's see, maybe who has a strong voice and would like to read this for us? Would you? Yeah, please.
Unselfish ambition, noble life motives, and purity. These constituents of thought mingling constitute individuality and collectively true happiness, strength, and permanence.
Very good. Thank you so much. So this, yeah, it's tough. I know, I'm sorry to catch you there, but no. But that is a very important idea because here we have an unselfish ambition with noble motives. So our motives need to be noble, good, nice. And that really, along with purity, that constitute our true happiness or takes us to find true happiness. And that's what I think it also helped me in my own experience. And recently I was in Peru in October, and it was so interesting because while I was visiting Machu Picchu, have you heard of Machu Picchu? So it is such a beautiful place. And while I was there visiting, there came a group of Americans who were studying Buddhism. And they came with somebody who is a Buddhist from Tibet. And they were comparing the beliefs that the Incas had in Peru 600 years ago with the beliefs that Buddha had on the other side of the world. They never connected, right? If we think of 600 years ago. But they had very similar way of thinking. And that, for me, tells really that there is a creative mind, a principle of all existence. And that principle really is throughout all generations and civilizations. And it's a proof that there is an infinite mind that governs each one of us and all the world with intelligence. So I think it's important that we try to get one with our Father, Mother, God, or one with this divine mind, the source of intelligence. And that has helped me so much through my years in college, when I was in college, that it was, and at my time I had, I was working and also studying, so it was not easy to do both things. And at one point of my life, when I was studying in Vienna, I was at 2 colleges, and then I decided to study also at a conservatory. So I had a music college, a language college, and a conservatory. So if I didn't understand that there is one divine mind that I could always try to connect with, it would have been very hard for me to get well in those 3. But that knowledge and that sense that as a student, I could always connect to the source of intelligence has helped me very much. And it can help each one of you. So through happiness is also mentioned in this book, Science and Health, that I talked to you about in another way. And here, Do we have another candidate maybe to read another one? Would you like to read for us? No, you? Yes, please.
For true happiness, man must harmonize with his principle, divine love. The son must be in accord with the Father, in conformity with Christ.
Thank you so much. So here we see the word Christ again. The presence of that infinite mind or infinite love always with us. So we can find true happiness. But it's important to be in one accord through the Christ, through that presence of the infinite love. And we can be always connected with the source of happiness. And that source of happiness is really spiritual. We can be always one with our Father. One with God transforms our experience. And I would like to tell you very briefly, I hope I can do it briefly, about my own experience. When I was little, I was, my siblings are much older than I am. And they used to tease me, to, tell me stories. But I think when I was maybe 7 or 8, my siblings used to say very much to me, "Oh, Leide, you were found in the trash can." Have you ever heard that expression? So they told me repeatedly that. And I looked different. I am the shortest. My skin is a little lighter. And I was always in doubt. And I would say, "Oh my gosh, how could I breathe in a..." I remember thinking that. How could I breathe in a trash can? I really believed it. I was kind of very, innocent, and I believed it. And what happened was that when I was 10, I didn't have a chance to ask my mom because she passed on. And she passed on, and when somebody in the family passes on, family members or friends or neighbors, they all come over, right? They come over to visit and things like that. So they did with us. And I was a very quiet child, I was always around. But I heard over and over again, "Oh, Lourdes was the name of my mom. Lourdes started to be ill after Leide was born." And I heard that story many times. "Oh, Lourdes started to be ill after Leide was born." So what do you think I thought? Guilty, right? So if you think that before I was thinking that I was found in a trash can, and when you think about trash, what do you think? Dirty? What else? Castaway, something that it's disposable, right? What? Wasted, yeah? So you waste, you don't have any worth. So I had all those feelings as a child. I was a little child. And then my mother passed on, and I heard that, and I really felt guilty. So I grew up thinking that my mother passed on because of me, that I was guilty of her death. So how do you think my life was? Depressive. Very much so. Very depressive. I remember, Jonathan, times when I would just go to my room and lock me inside and cry and cry and cry. Why am I living here? Why am I here? This was so disturbing to me that the first time I remember that I had suicidal thoughts, I was 11. It was not something easy. But when I was 12, I went to a Christian Science Sunday school. And it was so interesting at a Christian Science Sunday school, I got those two books, the Bible and Science and Health. And talking to my teacher, he told me how I could read every day what it's called in Christian Science a Bible lesson with passages of the Bible and of Science and Health. And I started studying them every day. And that really helped me. And it was very interesting that I learned that God is love. I learned on the first chapter of John, it's a letter that John wrote, we have known and believed the love that God has to us. God is love. And he that dwells in love dwells in God, and God in him. So by learning that, by knowing, okay, God is love, God is with me, that was a great help. And with that idea that I mentioned to you about Christ, learning about the Christ, that the Christ was that presence of love with me all the time, when I got those crises, I could get over them with that feeling. And I can tell you that those years that I had in the Christian Science Sunday School was for me like touching the hem of Christ's robe. And that's an expression that it's in the Bible. Have you heard of it, Jonathan? Yeah. It's a beautiful expression because a woman once really, she suffered for so many years with, she was losing her blood, and it's a very bad thing, right? People think she wasted all her money trying the doctors at that time, and she couldn't find healing. But then she thought, if I could just touch the hem of Christ's robe, I will be healed. And guess what? What happened, Jonathan, if you know the story? She was healed. She was completely healed immediately. And that can happen to us today. And this is a symbol. We don't have a robe to touch, but it's a mental way of understanding it, what God really is and what Christ really is. And I want to give you another example. I think, has any one of you been to Germany? Oh, good. So which cities have you visited? Do you remember? Munich, Leavensburg. 5 cities, great. Okay, did you go also to the north of Germany? Did you go to the former communist side? Berlin, did you go to Berlin, to Leipzig? No. But Germany is beautiful, right? You've been to Germany too, right? So which cities have you visited?
Pretty much all over West Germany.
Oh, West Germany. Great. Wonderful. So because I had my language school, I went with 4 friends to an international conference for teachers of German, because I had my school and we taught a lot of German in São Paulo, Brazil. So when I was there, we were aiming to Leipzig, but we thought that we would just have a tour in Europe. So we were in many cities. And has any one of you been to Budapest? You have. So how did you like Budapest?
It was dark.
It was dark? Yeah? All right. But did you go to any nice places or to a castle there? Do you remember the castle?
We did the tour, the bus tour.
Okay, you did a bus tour. All right. So when I was traveling with my friend, when we got to Budapest, that was when I had my worst crisis ever. I started crying and crying, and it was kind of illogical. When you go through things like that, it's not that you can change. You don't know what happens. And that's what was happening to me. I was so frustrated. I was so unhappy with whom I was that I was just thinking that I wanted to end my life right there. So what happened was that I didn't talk to my friends. We spent a few days in Budapest. And for 2 or 3 days, I didn't talk to them. They would come to me, and I wouldn't talk to them. But on the 3rd or 4th day, they said, "Oh, Leide, we are going to go to the castle. Would you like to go with us?" So the word castle was like of magic for me, and I said, "Oh, castle, yes. I want to go to the castle." You know, when we think about castles, especially we women, maybe you boys don't think that much, but we grow up thinking about castles, right? Do you too? Did you? No? Thinking about princesses or, things like princess, right? Yes. No, you didn't. Okay. But I did. So I loved castles. So I decided to go. But when I was there, it was not easy. And we saw the castle. And then, so did you visit that castle when you was there? Yeah. So do you remember how high it is? Yeah. You do? You went there too. It's pretty high, isn't it? It's 160 feet high from the or the river level that they have there. It's called the Danube River. And I was looking at this beautiful scenery. But how was my thinking?
You are very happy.
I wasn't happy. So what do you think I want to do? Yes, I was just thinking, or I was hear that bad voice, jump, jump, jump. And I was just thinking, okay, I will jump and I will end this quickly here because I'm having such a bad life. And you see, it's so illogical because I didn't have any other health issues. I didn't have any problems with money, any problems in the family. It was really a mental problem. So I was just thinking how I could jump, and I was seeing that nobody would be with me. But then a friend of mine, she was shorter than me. I am short, but she was even shorter. She came and she talked to me, and she was talking, and I didn't answer her, and I was thinking, go away. I just want to jump here. What are you doing here? But she kept talking, and then she left. And I was just planning to jump. But then out of a sudden it came a thought, Leide, you were going to jump. And then your friends will have to look for your body down there at the river. They have to send your body to Brazil. Do you want to do that with your friends? And I said, oh, no, I don't want to do this with my friends. So then I said, okay, I want to do this. So what really happened to me at that moment? When I heard that voice asking me, Leide, do you really want to do this to your friends?
Woke up.
Pardon me?
Woke up.
Woke up, yes. For me, I am certain today that it was the voice of God, or that mind, that infinite love that I told you about before, that was really telling me not to end my life, because God had a purpose for me. I didn't know at that time that God had a purpose for me, but by listening to that, I decided for the first time after suffering throughout my whole teenage years and young adulthood, I decided for the first time to ask for help. So we came down because we were at the castle, and I called a Christian Science practitioner and asked for a Christian Science treatment. And I explained to her everything that I was feeling. And for the first time, I got really released. That feeling of committing suicide went away. I was not healed completely of the depression at that time, but I decided then to learn a little bit more about spiritual healing. And so what I did, I wanted to learn how to express dominion, how to really take care of my life and take care of my thoughts and really guide my life. So this was very helpful to me. We talked a little bit a few minutes ago about touching the hem of Christ. And this passage was also nice. Who would like to read it for me, please? Anyone? No volunteers? Would you like to read? No? Yeah?
He that touches the hem of Christ's robe and masters his mortal beliefs, animality and hate, rejoices in the proof of healing, in a sweet and certain sense that God is love.
Thank you so much. So I knew that God was love. I knew that. And I've learned and I thought, nowadays I know I really wanted to control that animality. And what is animality? It's a word that we don't use very often. It comes from what? Animal. So animals are rational or irrational? Yeah, in between. Okay, but most of them are irrational, right? So what happens is that sometimes we have that irrational thinking, and by learning spirituality, by trusting and learning what God is in our spiritual nature, we can control that animality, those irrational thinking. And that's what happened to me. And I have to tell you that I really trust that we are here not just to learn how to cope with problems. It's not about coping with something bad about us or about our lives. It's really about being healed, feeling that freedom of any sense of limit. That, as we were talking before, that it is, we are all, that there are unlimited potential for each one of us, as we were talking before. So that is really true, and we can get a complete healing. One thing that I've learned when I was doing that course on spiritual healing, I told my teacher my story and how bad I felt about myself, and she asked me, "Oh, Leide, do you know the 2 great commandments?" Has any one of you heard of those 2 great commandments before? You have?
Love thy neighbor as thyself.
Okay, and that's the second one? What is the first one? Yeah, no, do you remember? That's it. Love God with all your heart. Yes. So, love your Lord thy God with all thy heart. And now we know what heart means, right? That knowledge, that natural knowledge, that intuitive knowledge that is divine. And with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And when she said that, I said, "Oh, I can do this. That's easy. Of course, I love God. I have been loving God since I remember myself as a little child." But the second one, what was the second one? Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. When I heard that at that moment, I knew that before, but it was like taking a cold shower. I realized, I said, "Oh my gosh, if I don't love my neighbor, if I don't love myself, how can I love my neighbor?" And I always thought that I was a good person, loving person. I was always friendly. Since I was little, I wanted to help everybody at school. I did all the best. But for the first time, I realized, if I don't love myself, my spiritual self, I cannot love my neighbor. I cannot love anyone truly, because I have to love myself first. So another thing that I've heard after telling my story, my teacher said, "You know, Leide, if you were thinking all the time about you and that people don't like you much, you were being egoistic, or you're being egoist." And I said, "Me, egoist? Oh no, I am unselfish. I do everything for others." And it's interesting because the Merriam-Webster dictionary says that egoist is a believer in egoism, of course. And egoism is an excessive concern to oneself, with or without exaggerated feelings of self-importance. Actually, what I thought, that I was so insignificant that everybody would be concentrating on me, was so illogical. I would never talk like this and be in front of people. My whole teenage years, I didn't go to parties. I didn't learn how to dance. I was just confined all by myself because I didn't love myself. So when I got that actually this timidity is actually a false sense of who we are, I got it a whole different picture of who I am and what I could do. And Mary Baker Eddy talks about egoist and egoism, an egotist, that it's interesting because she says in one of her writings that it's called unit of God, of good. An egotist is one who talks much of himself. I said, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be talking about myself or worrying about myself. Egotism implies vanity and self-concern. I didn't want that for me, and I certainly don't want it today. Egoism, and look how interesting, because this is a different take of what we understand today of egoism. Because we have also a root here. The word ego actually means I. And the great I is this great mind that we were talking about before. So egoism is a more philosophical word signifying passionate love of self, which doubts all existence except its own. An egoist, therefore, is one uncertain of everything except his own existence. And that is really what God is, because it's so interesting. God is egoistic, knowing only his own presence, all knowledge, all power. And that's what we need to know about God in order to heal and to be healed. It's interesting because if you are facing today, or if you face tomorrow or next year, any kind of problem, it might be physical, emotional, or mental like I had. The first thing you can think of is that a miracle can happen right here. I deserve it. I deserve a life with freedom, with purpose, and with happiness. And miracles can happen. Miracles can happen today the same way it happened during Jesus' time. So Merriam-Webster defines miracle as an extraordinary event manifesting divine intervention in human affairs. But the second definition, what is the second definition? Can you read for us, please, if you don't mind? Yes.
An extremely outstanding or unusual event, big or complicated.
Okay. So that is interesting, right? Okay. An extremely outstanding or unusual event. When we want a transformation in our lives, it might seem unusual. But we need to trust that can happen. And Merriam-Webster gives a third definition of miracle. What is the third definition? Who would like to read it for me, please? Yes.
Christian Science is a divinely natural phenomenon experienced humanly as the fulfillment of spiritual law.
Thank you so much. So even the dictionary brings the definition of miracle that Christian Science gives. That miracles are natural. So we can experience or expect miracles to happen in our lives. It's just divinely natural. And please expect miracles to happen in your lives. We can't talk much about Christian Science without talking about Mary Baker Eddy. So let us just, because she is the discoverer of Christian Science, let's just, in a few minutes, just talk a little bit about her. She was a great thinker. Since her childhood, she really wanted to learn, and she read great philosophers, and she learned other languages too. She learned Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. When she was little, she was asked a question in school, and the teacher asked, "Okay, what would be left if we peel an orange, squeeze it, and threw it all the rest? What do you think? What is the natural answer?"
The idea.
The natural answer is, okay, orange juice if you squeeze it. But if you drink the orange juice, is there anything left? No. Right, nothing left. But Mary Baker Eddy says, okay, the idea is left. Thank you. And that showed, as an early age, that she was a great thinker. So in her autobiography, she really mentioned that she was always impelled to know more, always impelled to feed the hungry heart, those who would like to know more about who we are and why we live. Mary Baker Eddy also was healed of a... Hi, welcome. We have also some things to drink and eat if you'd like, if you have help yourself if you'd like. So we're talking here about a life with freedom and purpose and happiness. And I'm just talking right now about the discoverer and founder of Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy, just for us to have an idea. She was healed of a chronic digestion problems. She couldn't eat during most of her life. She had lots of problems of indigestion. And she tried a diet called Graham diet. Have you ever heard of that diet? Pardon me? Yes. It was a very rigid one. She was able to eat only one slice of bread, some vegetables, and 1 glass of water. Even with that, she had indigestion. So the doctor told her, okay, just a slice of bread and water, and separately. So do you think a person can live with that? She became very thin, very weak. She was very often in bed. But it was so interesting that if you read Science and Health on page 221, she describes that on her own healing. She only mentions it on the third person, but she's talking about herself. It's her own healing. And she was completely healed after that of this problem, even after living so many years without hunger, with hunger. And she mentioned that she could enjoy, after she was healed through Christian Science, she enjoyed all kinds of food. In 1866, she had a fall, and she had severe pains, and she was taken to a home, and a doctor came and said that she was unconscious and she probably would pass in a few days. But when she recovered her consciousness, she asked for the Bible, and she started reading the Bible and the healings of Jesus, and she was healed. So she wanted to know why she was healed. So that's why she studied more and more the Bible, to find that science that we were talking about before, to find what was the theory behind Jesus' healings that could be provable and experienced today. And that's what we find when we read Science and Health. Robert Peel, in his book, is one of her biographers. He said that when she was healed, in 1866, she said that she heard that voice, she remembered what she read in the Bible, Jesus saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And Mary Baker Eddy herself, she says that at that moment also, during her recovery, she really felt that life is in spirit and of spirit. And that is the true reality of life. And that is so important for us. We can always learn that life is in spirit and of spirit, and is the true reality of existence. We're here because there is this infinite power that governs each one of us in perfect harmony. One thing, we were talking about limits, about overcoming limits, the potential that each one of us has. And Mary Baker Eddy also experienced that in her life. It is interesting because in 1860, because that's the period when she was living, the woman's life expectancy was really 42 years old. And when she discovered Christian Science, she was already 45. She was in that period, yes, that people would think, okay, she's about to die. But you know what happened? She really passed on in 1910. In 1910, the life expectancy of women was 53, and she was 89. So it was like today, women's life expectancy here in the United States, it's about 80. But it would be like we live in until we are 140. Yeah, if you think about it. So this is really overcoming limits. That's what our spiritual thinking can do to us. She restarted her life when she was 45, when she was everybody was thinking that she was going to die. That's why when we find our purpose, when each one of you, find your purpose, your God's given purpose, you can change your life. You can change your life for better. God has a purpose for you. Mary Baker Eddy found hers. I found mine. You can find yours. Mary Baker Eddy was a revolutionary during her time because women just used to be at home doing nothing. But she became a writer, she became an editor, a lecturer, and a teacher. She was really a pioneer. Nowadays, we talk a lot about the mind-body connection. So medicine is really seeing the importance of thinking to find health. And Mary Baker Eddy talked about that in the 1900s. So she was a real pioneer of the mind-body connection and knowing that health is a condition of divine mind, not of matter. If you ever have a chance and want to know more about her healings, there are thousands, and here there are a few samples of healings that were performed by her. So this whole book, it's called Christian Healer, Mary Baker Eddy, a Christian Healer. And here there are documented healings that she performed during her time. And it's a fascinating book. So when I started reading, I didn't want to put it down. So there is an account in this book that it's fascinating. And this man told this story in 1903 in LA. So he was working in a building, and he was on the 3rd floor, and somehow he fell. So he fell. We are talking about beginning of 1900s, right? So medicine was not what it is today. So he was taken to the hospital, and he had several injuries on his leg, and they told him that they couldn't fix it, and they wanted to amputate his leg. So is this a good decision? What do you think? So do you think he liked it, the idea? No, he didn't. He said, no, please don't amputate my leg. So he stayed a few months at the hospital. When he left, his leg was several inches shorter, that amount, about 20 centimeters shorter. So and then one day he was doing some work at Mary Baker Eddy's home, and she saw him using a iron boot. And then she asked him, "Oh, I believe you would like to get rid of this iron boot, don't you?" And then he said, "I tried everything, so I don't think I can do anything, ma'am." And then she told him, "Okay, why don't you sit down, and I will give you a spiritual treatment. I will pray for you." So he sat down. She prayed. She gave him this Christian Science treatment. It's totally spiritual. And then she told him, "Okay, just go home and take this boot out and take it off and let your leg grow." Sounds strange, doesn't it? So do you think this man said, "Oh, what are you talking about? I want to do this." Do you think he said that? No, he didn't. You're right. So he went home and he did that. Remember what we talked about at the beginning about 3 important points for healing? Expectancy, faith, trust, right? So he had that. I'm sure he had that. And he said in LA in 1903 that his both legs were the same. So there are infinite potential for us, infinite possibilities. But we do need to trust. We do need to expect. We do need to hope that those things will happen. Samuel Putnam Bancroft in 1870 knew Mary Baker Eddy, and he wrote, because they were colleagues, he told that Mary Baker Eddy never lost track of her purpose, never lost track, never lost sight of her own purpose. And that is also important for us. What happens with a train that is on track? It keeps going, right? Is it going to reach the destiny? Yes. So in order for us to get to our goal, it's important, it's always important to set up goals. And I love to think that if you feel your God's given purpose, and if you set up goals for you, you have a big goal and then smaller goals. And then as you are reaching your smaller goals, you get, stronger. And then you have that ability and that trust and that willness, or that expectancy to reach your bigger goal, and you get there. So that's why purpose is so important. Dr. Davis was a physician who met Mary Baker Eddy. He couldn't heal a person, and then he heard that she was performing healings, so he talked to the family and told her to come, and she prayed, and that person was healed. And then he asked her, "What did you do?" And then she said, "Oh, I didn't do anything, God did." And he said, No, you did something. So what did you do? And then he said, "You have to put it down. You have to write it in a book." So she wasn't just going to do it just because a doctor told her to do that, but she prayed. For a whole week, she was praying and opening the Bible to find an answer. And I can tell you that I feel this very practical in my own life. Sometimes when I need an answer, I go to my Bible and I just open it randomly and I find something. That's what Mary Baker Eddy did. And she found this passage from Isaiah. "Now go, write it before then in a table, and note it in a book." So she found that. When she found that passage, she said, "Oh, okay, I will write it." And she wrote it. And it was interesting because in 1872, she wrote this letter to the public saying that she was going to write about moral science and physics. And in 1875, she published for the first time Science and Health, and she gave that name, Science and Health, at that time. In April 11 of 1908, you can see that there are a few magazines there. One of them, one magazine is called Sentinel, and it was published in 1908 in a Sentinel, a statement that she said about war. And she mentioned that for many years I've prayed daily that there would be no more war. And President Roosevelt said that he really wished that other religion leaders would say the same. So, she was an admirable woman. For me, it's really a great example of what women can do and what each one of us can do to change lives and to change and to find healing. A few months later, the editor of the Minneapolis Daily News asked her, "Okay, what can Christian Science do for fellowship?" And I loved her answer. She said, "Christian Science can and does produce universal fellowship as a consequence of divine love. It explains love, it lives love, it demonstrates love." And it's not a romantic love, but it's that spiritual love that governs each one of us in perfect harmony. Jesus is so interesting too. I love the stories of Jesus. And do you remember when he was 12 years old, what happened to him? That, the whole family went to his family, his parents, and he had siblings, so they all went up to Jerusalem. So they were there. He was 12 years old. And then they did whatever they needed to do, and then they came back. So I think both of you know the Bible a little bit, right? What happened with Mary 3 days after on the way back? Did she remember something?
He wasn't there.
She said, "Where's Jesus?" Jesus wasn't there. So she came all the way back. And then she came all the way back. And as a mom, she probably has told Jesus, "Jesus, what are you doing here?" Right? Probably. So we don't know what she said. But she really asked him what he was doing. Do you remember the answer? Does anyone remember Jesus' answer?
"Wist ye not that I must be about my Father's
Yeah, thank you. Oh, Mom, don't you know? I'm taking here care of my father's business. 12 years old. Which father was he talking about? Was he talking about Joseph? No, he was talking about God. So, he was talking to whom? To those doctors of laws, those who knew the Old Testament very well. How were they? They were thinking that Jesus was how?
They were astounded.
They are astounded. Thank you. They couldn't believe the answers that he was giving. So did he have a purpose when he was 12 years old? He did. The Bible doesn't tell us too much what he did from 12 to 30 when he started his healing ministry. We know that he became a rabbi, so he was studying, of course. But to have that purpose at the early age helped him to reach his goals and to really heal a lot of people. So in your case, never doubt that you can find your God's given purpose and that you can change your life in any time or point of your experience. Mary Baker Eddy changed her purpose and she really got it when she was 45, when she was about to die, as I mentioned to you. And then she recovered and she lived much longer. I changed my life, my purpose. I changed what I did humanly a lot of times, but I was always listening and asking God, God, what do you want me to do? And I often ask this question nowadays too, for every day. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here talking to you today. And I trust and I believe that each one of you is so important and so unique. What you can do with your life, what you can do for the world is unique and nobody else can do it. And God has that purpose for you. But what do you need? Expectancy, faith, and trust. A faith with understanding. We're not talking something mysterious here. If you study the Bible, and if you read Science and Health to try to understand the Bible metaphysically, you're going to find your answers. This is a book for anyone, regardless of the background or religion, as we talked about before. Jesus, he knew his mission, that it was to take care of his Father's business. And so there are so many healings that Jesus performed in the New and the Four Testaments. But I love the fact that he fed multitudes when they were hungry and nothing to eat in the desert, but he fed them. He showed honesty to his followers, and he was honest and he paid his taxes. Sometimes we think, I don't have money, how can I do this? But he did it. And do you remember to whom he talked to? Who knows the Bible? Who knows that story? Jesus went to pay taxes, and what happened? Do you remember, Sue?
About going to the fish's mouth?
Oh, yes, that one. Yes, that one. He was talking to whom? Peter. He was talking to Peter. What was Peter's profession?
Fisherman.
Yeah, he was a fisherman. So he knew what he was doing. And Jesus knew that he could be good at fishing. So he told him, okay, Peter, just go and fish. And the coin that you find in the fish's mouth, with that coin you're going to pay your taxes and my taxes. Did it happen?
Yeah.
It did. So,
There's some talk about whether he should have had to pay the taxes.
yeah, there might be. But the thing is that he obeyed the law, and he did. And that's what we all do. We obey the law, and we do this. And we never think that something is impossible. We trust that all things are possible to God, and therefore possible to us. Jesus was focused, And so he pursued his mission without fear. And we can do the same. We can pursue our mission without fear. So, in this talk, you heard my own examples, right? I told you how I overcame my depression. Do you think I look pretty depressive today? I don't, right? No. I am completely healed of depression. Those suicidal thoughts never came back again. And I love myself. I love myself as the image and likeness of God, as the image of soul, of this infinite mind, creative mind that we talked before. You know, it's not much about a body, but it's us as idea, as we talked before. So you heard Mary Baker Eddy's examples, so that she also had her goal. She never lost sight of her purpose. So we talked a little bit about Jesus, that even at an early age, 12 years old, he didn't miss or forget or was afraid of his mission. He knew his purpose. It was taking care of his Father's business. Now you can do the same. You can really find your God's given purpose. And you can live a life with freedom, with purpose, God's given purpose, and happiness. But let me ask you something. Before that, we talked about heart, that intuitive knowledge. Remember? You weren't here before, but I mentioned that the meaning of heart in the Bible is the source of knowledge. But it's a natural knowledge, an intuitive knowledge, a divine knowledge, so that we all have. So we have to open our hearts to transformation. And what I want to ask you is, who likes to go to the beach? Oh, you do? Good. You are like me. You don't like to go to the beach, Jonathan? Okay. All right. So William, I'm sorry, Jonathan is there. So when we go to the beach, have you ever written something on the sand? Have you? So if we're writing something on the sand and it's there, beautifully written, but then a wave comes, what happens? It takes everything away, right? It erases it, right? So think that whatever happened to you before, in your family, in your school experience, whatever problem you might have had, or health problem, or mental problem, anything that maybe disturbed you. It was like something written on the sand. When you open your heart, you let Christ come to your heart and to your experience, to your consciousness. And that Christ, that true manifestation of divine love, divine mind, comes, erases all, and takes it away, so that you're free, so that you're really able to live a life with freedom, with purpose, and with happiness. So I hope you can enjoy your beach, and thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure for me talking to you tonight. Thank you so much. And thank you. You didn't ask me any questions during the time, but if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer now or individually. So feel free. I will be here around for a few more minutes, so feel free to talk to me or to ask any questions if you have. Yes? Oh, yes, thank you. And we do have free literature for you. This book, as I mentioned before, I love red, so it's a red cover, but it's the same one as the blue cover there. It is a great companion for me. It explains the Bible metaphysically. I read it every day, and I always find inspiration on it. So I hope you can take with you, and I'm sure it will help you in your studies here at any time of your life.
We also have food back here for anybody that would like some.
Yes, please, help yourself with more food.